On today's show, I have Brady Novotny, who is going to talk about his latest album, Passions Collide. He is an amazing guitar player with a lot of different influences, and hopefully we're going to talk about not just his music, but maybe even get a little psychological with him. So welcome to the show, Brady.
Oh, great. Well, thanks for having me on today.
I think we'll eventually know what that psychological crack means. But before we get into that, because you have a cool story that we can approach from different angles, not just your music. But I spent some time watching some of your videos on YouTube, and you had this really great interview with Jim Patulski.
Oh yes, Jim. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. But when I came away from that, since you do heavy metal guitar, Spanish guitar, you have your hand in Christian music, how do you like to describe your genre of music to people?
Yeah, well, I guess that's one of the things. It's definitely heavily instrumental, but it's I guess I categorize it as rock / hard rock, or melodic rock with a flamenco twist. So in the songs I incorporate not only in the writing but in the playing. In the writing, definitely flamenco style chord progressions and melodies, but in the playing I use, in brief moments in the songs, the nylon string guitar, which is one of the the main instruments in flamenco music. So that's where I kind of got that style, yeah.
Well, it's funny because when I hear rock guitar meets like Spanish guitar, for some reason, I think of Carlos Santana, yet it's not quite the same, kind of the Latin rhythm and all that. And then the flamenco, it sounds like, the flamenco has more of like almost a classical guitar feel to it.
Yeah, Carlos, he mainly played electric guitar, and it was actually a lot of his playing style was blues based, and his rhythms had congas and Latin rhythm. Mine is sort of rock based with the overlay of the nylon string, playing in those flamenco scales and the chord progressions. So it's a little different, It's more, actually, the way I play flamenco is a little bit more traditional than, say, what maybe Carlos may do or something. So.
Okay. Well, it's nice that your album's been out for a few months now, so you've had a chance to hear the response. So again, the album is called Passions Collide, and you've got your guitar style with the rock, the flamenco. But what would you say is the cohesive thing? Like, if someone's going to hear that, does it weigh more heavily on the heavy metal side, the flamenco? What's the journey you take on this album?
Well, each song, I guess I really try to tell a story, and it's not just playing heavy riffs or speed playing or more of a melodic stance. I want the listener, I title the songs according to what the picture I had in mind for when I wrote the song. So Passions Collide is really, even the title track has a lot to do with my passions in music, and that would be rock guitar. I grew up listening to some of the great guitar players from the 70s and 80s. And then my other favorite style playing was the Latin and flamenco. So it's just really colliding those two styles together and making it seem like it's a part of the song and not just some awkward transition. So yeah, I spent a lot of work in trying to accomplish that and hopefully tell a story with those two types of sounds. And, it seems so far everyone has received it well and has kind of understood what I was trying to do. So I'm happy with that.
Oh, sure. Well, one thing I like is that you use YouTube to talk about several of the songs, which I think is great. And it would be nice to see more musicians do it, because the ones I saw, you had a song, The Journey Home, and you had a very nice backstory to that. A song called Blue Rose, where you talked more about how you incorporated the flamenco guitar. What inspired you to do these YouTube videos and talk about individual songs that way?
Yeah, well, I think you connect up better with your audience whenever they know what you were thinking, and especially when it's instrumental music. It's like seeing a painting, and then you have your own interpretation of it. But when you hear what the artist had in mind when he was painting it, then you kind of can fall in love with it too. So I wanted to do that with these songs and kind of give the listener not just some, it's like, oh, this is an instrumental piece, and if they like the melody, then they'll like it. But I wanted them to connect on an emotional level with what the story was behind it. And since I had a story, I figured the best way to tell it is to sort of, come up with these, interview type clips that are just about a minute and a half long of just about all the songs I did on the recording. So I've heard other people do that, Joe Satriani was one of them. He did that with his new album, and I thought it was really effective. And I think it's just a better way to connect with people.
Well, the connection I want to talk about a little bit more, because the whole do-it-yourself aspect of YouTube, it's a double-edged sword. It lets so many more people make their music and share it, but it also means there's so much more noise out there, to get heard above. There's just so much out there. And it sounds like today an artist not only has to distinguish themselves, but they have to have some kind of personal connection with their audience. And what I like about what you do, not just on YouTube, but on your own website, you have an interesting blog, and you get very personal in just talking about, what it's taken you just to get this music out there.
Sure. Yeah, it's all about relationship and about connection and being transparent. Just some of your favorite artists that really, at least nowadays, with some of the people getting real and doing like little things on Instagram and stuff where they're actually talking to you, or some artists, even do live, and live Facebook feeds and stuff. And I think when you're approachable and you're a real person and you tell a story, people just they like that, and I know I like that. So I figured it was the best way
if you'll sure, and if you humor me a little, you had this one entry here on your blog. It was titled "My Personal Struggle on Finishing," which I take it to mean, finishing your album. And I'll just name a couple things. You just flat out said, here were some of my struggles. One being, why am I doing this? And, do you really think you compare to all the other guitar players already doing this? Are you going to be liked by your peers? And I thought that was a really interesting transparency, because I think most people, when they hear you, think, wow, this guy is great. Well, what kind of reaction have you gotten from other musicians that say, wow, thank you for sharing that? I had no idea that you kind of go through those doubts also.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, part of the goal of doing this was to inspire other people because if nobody makes music, we're done. So, I mean, we have to keep it going, and there's so many great musicians, and I think that we all have the same thoughts of like, why am I doing this? Is anyone going to like this? Is this stupid? And we all have had the thought of when we finish a song, is like, well, this is great 1 minute, and then it sucks the next, and it's just, we all go through it, and I think we owe it to ourselves to finish it, because you can't make your second album until you finish your first album. You can't write your second song until you finish your first song. It's just, we have to finish. We have to push through the battlefield of the mind, and really get through all those personal demons that we have in order to, maybe help somebody. Maybe one of the songs will help somebody, and or who knows? I mean, who knows what can happen through it? But if it's never out there, then it's just you haven't done anything. So
what I'm curious is, what strategies have you developed to get yourself over that hump? Like, say you're in the studio and you're thinking, oh, this isn't going the way I thought. What am I doing? How do you kind of coach yourself to get beyond that?
Yeah, that, it seems to always be the same, go around on the mountain, around the mountain, same thing, that I'll find myself, kind of down on either, like, oh my gosh, why did I do this again? Because those thoughts always come up. And I think for a lot of people they do, and you have to remember that, you've had these thoughts before, and, tomorrow may be completely different. And someone told me, it's like, you're always one person away from some type of success. It's one person away. So somebody will hear something, and you never know what will happen. So, you're always going to have those thoughts that it's not good enough, it's not good enough, it's not good enough. But if I judge that for everything that I've done, then who am I? Because it might be good enough for somebody else. I can't really make a judgment for somebody else. That's kind of like mind reading. I can't read your mind if you're going to like it or not. So I have to allow the listener to make the decision. And so my job is to put it out there and allow someone else to hopefully like it. So it's when you let go a little bit,
So when you finally finish this, which of the songs just really sort of like, wow, I'm so proud of this song? Do you have any favorites?
I think there's a lot of them have a lot of special meaning for me, and some of my favorites switch from time to time. I was a big, I love the song Ancient Romance because it was written based off of my travels through the country, Italy, and going to Rome and Venice and stuff like that. So I that was a really unique time for me, and I really thought that. And then the song The Journey Home was written from my mom who passed away, so that has a significance, to me, and losing a loved one and stuff like that. So, a lot of them have different meanings, but the ones I like to listen to, Ancient Romance would definitely be my favorite to listen to. But that may switch tomorrow.
Sure, and it's mostly instrumental, but you also do have some vocals on some of the tracks. Yes. There's two songs that have vocals on them. Yes. And is that your wife singing on that?
On the one song, Redemption's Cry, she's singing on that song. And the drummer that played on the record, he's singing on Blue Rose. But, the one that was released as a single, Redemption's Cry, she sang on.
And what was that like to work with your wife in the studio?
Oh, I mean, I'm married to another musician, so it's nice, I mean, we get each other, I'm not, if I write the melody line, she can embellish it however she, feels fit. I'm not that particular, She's the singer, so I'm not going to tell her how to sing. But we seem to work well together, and it was a nice experience. And we've been playing and singing together for a while, so going in the studio wasn't that big of a deal. It was nice to actually work together on that. So,
well, this is also a good segue into the other hat you wear in life, You're both a musician,
Mm-hmm.
but you're also a therapist, a licensed therapist. And tell me if
Yes.
I'm wrong, but you specialize in like marriage counseling and relationships?
Yes, I am a licensed therapist in the state here of Pennsylvania, and I'm actually a certified sex therapist, which includes a lot of relationships and marriage and stuff like that. So, it's in these days you have to kind of wear many hats, and that's just one of the hats. That I don't know. It was a weird time when I took a detour and I took a break from music and I just wanted to do something else, and I got my master's in psychology. So, it was,
here's what's interesting with, especially people who play heavy metal, as part of what you do. You play some pretty, rock and guitar there, but then the flip side is, you're in this very sensitive, profession, counseling. And at first glance, it would be like, well, how do you reconcile the two? But I think the more you get to, talk to heavy metal guitarists and people in that world, you scratch the surface, and there's a lot of, sensitive guys doing heavy metal too. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, hard rock and all that music's very passionate. I mean, for some people, I mean, I'm not a big heavy, metal type of guy. But at some point, for some people, it sounds like noise, and I understand that. But a lot of hard-driven music has a lot of emotion, with the beat and the rhythm and the chords, and can create a lot of different moods with that. So, I can see, where that connection of emotion and emotional music, really comes into play, So, classical music, that's very emotional too. And back in the day, there was, you had Paganini and you had Bach and you had all these different composers and stuff, and some of their music was pretty heavy, So
right,
yeah,
right. Well, it's also ironic, I think. Absolutely, but in the whole realm, just even within Christian pop and rock, even some Christian rock gets pretty hard rockin', and that,
sure.
I think a lot of people, even a lot of modern church services, depending on what kind of church program you have, there's a lot of electric guitars now in church services, and it seems like there's even rock music in the church.
Yes, of course, yeah. I mean, with today's culture, things are growing,
and I can see how
generations are changing. Yeah, go ahead.
Right, from the distance, it's like, oh, that's not the old-time music we're used to, but at the same time, when you talk about the passion of your songs, it seems like, that is part of that experience during a service. And I think what I really liked of your videos, you played at, it looked like a Christmas holiday concert called Wizards in Winter. And at first glance, if you didn't know it was like a holiday thing, you go, wow, this is a really cool rock concert with a big light show, I expected some KISS pyrotechnics to start going off and sparks on stage almost. It was pretty cool. But how was your reception there? Even at a holiday concert, it's kind of cool. You can incorporate a lot of your rock guitar into it.
Yeah, the Wizards of Winter is actually a Trans-Siberian Orchestra cover. So, and they're big around the country now and everything. And so, yeah, the show that I was a part of at that point, they did that song. So, yeah, I mean, I think more and more the electric guitar, I mean, as generations change, people have grown up with electric guitar and that's just what they're used to hearing, So,
and it's also
it's
fun,
a
I think. Yeah, and I think the kind of music you do also lends itself to visuals. It seems like especially some of your songs, Blue Rose, Ancient Romance, Redemption's Cry, which has a really cool music video. It sounds like on stage a lot of that would be really suitable for some strong visuals.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. We just, want people to experience those titles, and everything, the story behind it, for sure.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap up here, before we forget, I want to make sure that people who are looking for you online know exactly where to go. So where's the best place to learn more about you and to buy your album?
Sure. My website, which is www.brady, B-R-A-D-Y, Novotny, Novotny.com. There's links to everywhere. You can type my name into YouTube and find me on YouTube. Brady Novotny Music on Facebook. I have been Brady Novotny Official on Instagram, and then even on Spotify as well. And you can just type my name in, you'll find me if you want to check out the music beforehand. But it's being sold, on iTunes or Amazon and on my website. So if you're interested and love to know if you do grab it, let me know what you think. That would be really appreciative.
No, I encourage people to go there. Okay, we got about a minute left. So last question. I heard you say in an interview that you'll play almost anywhere. You like to perform, so where is the strangest place you've ever performed?
The strangest place. Oh, that's a good question. Strangest place. Played at a it was an outdoor thing, an outdoor little venue, and it was the strangest place, but not what I'm used to. It was overlooking this big mountain cliff and everything, and it's just not something that usually you're in a club or in a closed setting, but this was pretty wide open and very right there in nature, and so that was kind of a unique experience. I never had that opportunity to be that outside before.
And real quick to wrap up, what would be your dream venue to play in?
Well, on that line, I would like to say, probably the Red Rocks in, I think, Colorado.
That would be amazing. Well, I so appreciate your taking time out of your day today, Brian, and I wish you continued success with Passions Collide.
All right. Well, thank you for having me on.